Welcome to mjara.com. In this video tutorial, we are going to install Server 2008 R2 edition in a virtual environment using VirtualBox, and we'll use Power ISO as our ISO manager. Now, I have gotten Power ISO at poweriso.com. It's a simple download. Click download and you can either save or run the installation file. And for the VirtualBox, you can go to the VirtualBox website and click on download and then choose which of the VirtualBox is applicable to your platform. Now this is my Power ISO interface. Now what I like about it is a nice clean interface, but primarily it allows me to set 8 virtual drives. It gives me my information that the ISO image that I have loaded, actually this is Windows 7 Service Pack 1, that it is a bootable image and its capacity. Okay, now in an ISO image you can delete art files, unlike a CD image which is finalized and burned. What I'm going to do now is go to my virtual manager. Now this is my VirtualBox. I will take the opportunity to go through the VirtualBox for you whilst I'm setting up my server 2008. I'm going to click on new and this wizard pops up. Now what you have here is a name. This name speaks to the name that you want to give your virtual environment, and we know that our virtual environment will be Windows Server 2008. So I'm going to say WinServe 2K8 and let's put in the R2 edition. Now the type will be the platform that you're using. So I'm going to use a Windows platform, Microsoft Windows. There are other platforms you can use such as the Mac for those who like to make the Hackintosh, right? And the type will be the version. Now you may not see Windows Server inside here, but you will see Windows 2008 and I'm using the 64-bit edition. Let's click on next. Now memory size. Memory size speaks to the amount of RAM that you want to give the virtual environment. Now you have to be mindful. Now on the green bar indicates what is a safe amount to give the virtual environment, because your host still needs memory to run. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give my own 1024, which is just 1 gig of memory. I'm going to create a virtual drive, which is a new virtual drive. Now the recommended size is 25 gig, but be mindful this is not 25 gig of physical space on your hard drive. What it does, it compresses it using the VirtualBox, right? So I'm going to create my gig using the VDI VirtualBox Disk Management. Click on next and dynamically allocated. Now you can browse through this here to get a better idea of what it means, and I'm moving on. So I'm going to create. I can increase the size of my hard drive and I can tell it where I want my drive to be stored. So I'm going to put it in my VirtualBox and I'm leaving it as WinServe 2008 R2. Right, so here you have the actual environment, virtual environment being set up and hasn't been run as yet. We are going to go through some settings. Now it's good to fine tune your virtual environment before you start installing. So let's go through that setting. So this actually gives you a brief overview of everything that you have done before. We had set up the WinServe 2008 R2 edition, everything at the advanced and a brief description. Now if you need to find out any further information on this, if you look at the bottom here, you'll see a display giving further information as we go into the field. So we're going on to system. Now this is the amount of memory. Remember we had given it 1 gig of memory, and we're boot order. We are not using a floppy disk, so our next boot order will be the CD-ROM, which will host our ISO file. Processors, you can have a maximum of up to 4 processors, and acceleration. Ensure that these two are checked. Display. Now it is always good to click on the 3D acceleration, and which allows a greater amount of memory based on your BIOS. This memory is what is allocated in your BIOS. It doesn't allow for more than 256, which is in the BIOS. I'm going to select all of my video memory, which because it does not affect the actual performance of the system. Now the remote display is like Windows remote desktop. It allows you to actually log in to the virtual drive over remote access. Now here we have the storage. We created our virtual disk image And here you are the virtual size on it. It's self-explanatory, so you can go through that here. Now what is important here is this IDE controller, which allows you to mount your ISO image. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to browse through this and not mount my ISO image, so as a means to show you what happens and how to correct that problem. So audio, here we have the audio. You can determine where you want to set up. If you want your virtual drive to have audio feedback on it, I'm going to maintain the Intel high definition audio network. These are the network adapter that you can actually allow the system. Now some servers actually run on more than one network adapter, but I'm going to leave it at its default, but I am going to change it to host only, right? And here it allows additional features. Now I'm going to allow my proxy firewall not to filter anything and allow everything through the firewall. And here we have the basic serial ports, USB ports, and shared folder, which we'll actually go on to later on. You can either double click on your virtual environment to start up, or you can click the start button, right? Now what you're seeing here is a wizard that prompts you for your ISO image. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to close off that. So here we have this fatal no bootable medium found, system halted. Now what that means is that the system does not have a bootable image. Just as we spoke about on the ISO, we have a bootable image. What I need is to mount a bootable image onto that. So what I'm going to do, from the second icon from the right, I'm going to right click. And here from the option, I'm going to choose a virtual disk. I will navigate to my ISO image that I want to install, and here I want to install Windows Server 2008 R2. Immediately when the ISO image is mounted, you can see from it is no longer grayed out and it is blue. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to restart my system by resetting it, and allow the virtual box to reboot with the ISO image. Alright, so the ISO image has been booted up, it has been loaded, and it's running right now. So the VirtualBox has successfully found my ISO image, and it is installing my Windows Server 2008. So my Windows is starting up. Right, so this is the interface for my Windows Server 2008. I'm going to maintain my language but change my country to Trinidad. Now what you have here is the prerequisites for installing Windows 2008, and this repair your computer here is some tools that actually the image file has. So when it loads up, you'll see some varying types of servers. Like for instance, we have the server standard edition, and then we have the enterprise, the data center, and the web server. So what you can do, you can look up on Microsoft site and get some further information to determine which of the server is most appropriate for you. But for me, I'm going to go with my full installation of the Server 2008 Enterprise. Click on next, accept the terms and agreement, and I'm not going to upgrade, I'm going to custom. I'm going to create a new installation. Now here we have the unallocated space. This is the 25 gigs that the VirtualBox had designated for the virtual environment. Now what we have to do, we have to format this, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you two methods of formatting. I'm going to format the initial format, and I'm going to partition and leave just a mere probably 1 gig space to show you how to go about formatting the additional unallocated space within the operating system. So let's go. Click on new. I'm going to determine how much I would like. I'm going to go with 25 megabytes, 25,000 megabytes, sorry, and apply. Now when I click apply, it's going to ask me to take 100 megabytes for the operating system to ensure that it works properly, as you can see here. So here we go. So I have formatted my 25 gig, and it came down to 24 as my primary partition. And here you have the system reserve where it asked previously for. It took 100 megabytes and my unallocated space. Now I promise you that I'm going to show you how to format this unallocated space in the operating system. Now this would not show up until we format it. So when we get to the operating system, I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually install the Windows Server 2008 and we'll get back. So I'm going to pause the video. So welcome back. So our server installation has been successful and we came upon this screen which says the user password must be changed before logging in the first time. So let's go ahead and change the password. So I'm going to enter my new password, change our password. Okay, so our password has been successfully changed and we are going to log into our server for the first time. So our server has been logged in for the first time and there you can see the interface. Now I just want to go to my computer before to show you where the drive that we created was the 24.3 previously during the installation. Here's our ISO image that we mounted, our Windows Server 2008 ISO image. Now notice you are not seeing the additional drive due to the partitioning of the drive which I spoke about. So, and I did promise that I would show you how to format that partition. So let's go to start, right click on computer and let's go to manage. Let's go to storage and disk management. Now here we have the 25 gig before, as we said in VirtualBox, where the virtual drive that we made. Now remember the 100 megabytes we took for the system partition, and here we have our C drive which was remain of the partition, and we left this 1.13 gigs of unallocated space. So what I'm going to do now is going to show you how to format that this and give it a drive name. So I'm going to go new simple volume, click OK. Next, I'm going to use up all the remaining megabytes from it and assign it a drive letter. Now this is important so you can actually be able to utilize that partition actually. And we're going to do a quick format. From this here, the NTFS file format, we can go to FAT32 and NTFS. I'm going to leave it at NTFS. We leave the default file allocation size. This is actually how it breaks up the file into what size for storage. And I'm going to name this storage and click next, finish. As we can see, it's formatting and it has completed. So here we have our storage, assigning letter, the drive letter E. Let's go back to computer and here you have storage that is labeled E, and that is just as simple as it can be for formatting a drive within the operating system.